can spend all of our time working on how you get registered for the 2024 CUSC Graduating Student Survey. So I'm going to take you through this, just walk through the registration process. We do have chat open, and we'll try and take questions as they come up in chat. If we need you to clarify beyond that, we'll ask you to unmute, and then we'll deal with your question at that point. I'm being asked a question already about whether the webinar is being recorded. Yes, the webinar will be recorded, and it will be available on the CUSC website once we've finished editing that and getting it in the right places. So yes, there will be a recording available. There are two big groups here. There are most of us who are trying to register for the regular CUSC survey. There are also some of you who are in Alberta at colleges and technical institutes where you have a special version of the survey that is completed for you. I'll mention some of the places along the way where there's a difference. There is actually a separate form, which you'll see in a second, that is for Alberta colleges and technical institutes. If you're not an Alberta College and Technical Institute, you want to use the regular application form, and then I'll point out where there's some differences. All right, well, let's get on to actually taking a look at this. So when you are looking at our website, so this is what the website looks like when you just go to the home page. You want to go down to taking part on the menu and click on that. And that will take you to this page. On this page, you'll see the blue buttons. Don't ask me why they don't line up, because I don't know at the moment, but there are two buttons. One is for Alberta colleges and technical institutes. So you will click on that to open your special registration form when it's open for you. All the rest of us will want to click on the red button to register for the 2024 survey of graduating students. You might remember that last year we introduced the ability to work on your registration in phases. So you could fill out some of it and then come back and fill out some of the rest of it. So there is at the bottom of this page, if you have already set up your account, there is a place for you to log in so that it can do that remembering. You have to have an account for it to remember your entries partway through, but you can log into that here. If you don't have an account and you go to this, when you click on the button, you will get the opportunity to create an account. Or if you clicked before you remembered to log in, you can also click on a link to log into that account. So that's the key thing, is you create an account on the website, and then you can work on it progressively. As you can see, there's a lot of pages on the registration form. So you may want to do that so that you can go and fill things in, and then you may need to go and look some things up as you go along. I'm not going to bore you with my logging in process. You can set up a login that uses two-factor authentication. And since I do that for everything, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to switch to a screen where I've already logged in, and I'll go to that taking part page, and then I will click in here. And you'll notice that when I do so, all the stuff about creating an account, logging into an account, that all is gone because I am logged in. It knows who I am. And so that doesn't have to happen at this point. First part of the form here is identifying your institution, your department. And you're going to see me use the word test a lot here. We're going to make test in, let's do it in Alberta, since that's where I am. And then that's a nice fake Alberta postal code. You'll notice down here at these buttons, this is where you start to say, oh, I can now save this draft by clicking on that. It's also saved by clicking the next button. So if you just wanted to work on that page and exit, save draft before you leave. Next also saves the stuff you just filled in. It's filling in some contact information. Now it's pulling this from, if you've logged in, it's pulling some of this from your user account on the website. So I'm going to do that. We do ask that you confirm the email address because there's communication that comes after you have filled out the form that goes to that email address. So we want to know that it's a correct address. We ask for two contacts. The first contact is the person who's primarily responsible for dealing with the interactions with PRA for actually administering the survey. You can have a secondary contact, and this is whoever's going to do this if the primary contact is not available. But the primary contact is the person we are hoping will be responsible. If you're registering and the primary contact is not you, please do put in that other person's name and email and phone information so that we can have that. Many institutions have secondary contacts. It's a good idea to have a secondary contact just in case something happens and you're not able to respond. Financial contact, that is who's going to deal with the bills. Now, if you're in Alberta and you're under the Alberta Advanced Education Collaboration, most of your bills are paid for, but there are extra things that you can order that you may want to pay for. In any event, we always ask that you have a contact that we can get a hold of in regards to payment. There we go. So that's the contact section. Primary is really important. Secondary is helpful, and financial is also essential on that page. So now we get to start making some choices. So you can choose if you are a CUSC member and you're simply renewing your membership, you can choose to just renew your membership. If you do so, you want to choose the second radio button. Right below that, you'll notice a link to the procedures manual. We have put the procedures manual onto the website, not as a PDF, but as an actual integrated document. And so I'm going to pop that open and then choose to share that particular page because it opens as a second tab, as a second page. Sorry, I need to get to that right screen. Our procedures manual. You can see it through the breadcrumbs line on the left-hand side. You can see all the sections of the procedures manual. If a section has subsections, then there are articles within that section. There is some linking in between different sections of website. All of the emails, for instance, are also hot linked. And you can, if you end up with any questions, you can email admin at CUSC-CCREU.ca. That goes to Linda, who will happily answer your question. You can even rate the articles about whether this was helpful to you. You can go through and read it more or less in the usual way by just using the navigation through the different sections of the procedures manual. But this is what you get to when you click on one of the procedures manual buttons in the registration form. You'll see those all over the place in the registration form. All right. So back to this question. What are you registering for? If you're going to participate in the survey, then you want to click on participation. And most of you will be clicking on that one. Let's go on to the next question. So here you're deciding how you are going to participate in the survey. Are you going to do so as a member of CUSC, or are you going to be doing so as a non-member? So to be a member of CUSC, you have to be a university authorized to grant degrees within your jurisdiction. That's most of the previous participants for CUSC. If you are a college or technical institute or a non-degree granting institution, You can participate as a non-member. Even if you qualify to be a member, you can participate as a non-member, but there are some distinct differences in what you get out of CUSC if you choose to participate as a non-member. Most particularly, you don't get the national data set to be able to compare yourself against. You really are doing the survey just for your institution and the collaboration group you may be part of. Choosing these changes some of the options a little bit later on in the survey, but most of the options are enabled by being a CUSC member. So I'm going to carry on as if I was a CUSC member. So the next questions are starting to get to some key important data. The population of students who meet the definition of the standard sample. This is the survey of graduating students. So you're looking for students who would be eligible to graduate this year. You don't have to know that they actually are going to graduate this year. They just need to be eligible to graduate this year. And at this time of year, you're often in the process of having students apply to graduate or determining who that's going to be. So this is, for many people, an estimate. So try and be accurate, but don't worry about getting every last one exactly correct. So I'm going to type in 150. We do ask you to tell us whether that's an estimate or whether that's an actual head count. So there we go. It's an estimate of 150. The total number of students that you're going to include in the survey invitations is a separate question. For lots of institutions, we do a census. If we have 150 students in that group, we're going to survey 150. But if you are a very large institution with thousands in that group, you could choose to survey only 1,000 of those students to use as a standard sample size. You can use any size you want, but those are the thing. We're asking you, of that population, how many are you going to actually survey? The next question is about whether you'll be surveying a special sample. So those are people who don't fall within the normal definition, but you do want to send the survey to them. If you're in Alberta, the province has sent you instructions that will tell you who else should be included, and those other people go into this special sample. So again, you'd say yes, and then you fill in the number of students who are going to be in that special sample. Now, aside from Alberta telling institutions that they need to include some, you may have special populations in your institution that you want to over-index, where you need to get responses from those students in particular, and they don't quite fit the normal definition. So that's one way you could also use the special sample. All right, so now we've chosen the special sample, and you'll see up here, it tells me that with all the numbers I put in, the standard and special samples above, I get up to a whopping 170. So now we choose the participation level, and this one falls into the 500, up to 500 students level. You can see there's different thresholds for different numbers of students, and that changes the price that you're going to pay. As we go along, you'll see these estimated totals, and they will show up telling you more or less how much it's going to cost at this point. Again, for Alberta institutions, the base costs, this one in particular, that's covered by the provincial grant, so you don't have to worry about those numbers, but you'll see them anyway. It's good to be aware of how much it's costing, even if you're not paying for it. The next set of questions is about the survey package options. What language do you want to receive your reports in? On this one, reports, you order them in one language, but you can get them also in whatever language you don't order them in. So if you order them in English, you can also, for an additional fee, receive them in French. If you order them in French, you can receive them in English. So that's up to you. If your campus has a bilingual mandate, it may be important for you to receive them in both languages. We then ask about when you want to be invoiced, whether it's before the end of March or after the end of March, or a different date. And if you fill out the different date, then we ask you to specify the date that you want this to be sent to you on. So for some institutions, there's a fiscal year end that falls in here. And so this is kind of an important question at that point. Third part on this page is invitations come by email. And so there may be requirements that our contractor, Prairie Research Associates, needs to meet to be able to ensure that those emails get through and aren't tagged as spam or blocked. And so you can fill this in here. You may need to ask your IT department what they need to do. And there are some things that your IT department can do to help this go through properly. And that you'll get that instructions when you've signed up and you're heading towards administration. But there may be things that PRA needs to know to make it work for them. And we'd ask you to fill those in there. All right. Survey dates are the next question, and we're moving through pretty quickly here. We're already up to number 8, page 8 on this. So what date do you want to start? And the earliest we can start is January 8th. The latest we can start is March 24th. So you just go in here and you pick your date. And so let's see, I will pick the 22nd of January. Then the question is, when do you want it to end? You can choose how long the survey is open for. Technically, it's open all the way through April, but you can choose to have closing dates that are different. I'm going to run it to the end of March. Then we also ask that you put in your winter or spring term break, however you define that. We do that so that we're not sending out reminders to students while that break is happening. And so you just fill in the dates of the break that you have. Then we get to questions about incentives. You get, if you get a reasonable response rate, or if you want to get a reasonable response rate, the single most important thing you can do is to offer incentives. So we kind of assume that everybody's going to offer incentives, but if you're not, tell us that, because there's a whole bunch of questions you don't have to answer. But if you are, then you can you get as many as 2 draws by default, or you can have more draws. To be really clear, this is not the number of winners. You could have multiple winners in a single draw. This is the number of times you need to have a draw completed. If you're like me, you have an early bird draw and a later draw. And so that's 2 different draws. I could have 2 winners out of each of those. That would still be 2 different draws. So that's what the question is here, is how many do you want? 8 is ridiculous, but you can certainly have more than 2 if you would like. And then you can choose in the next question, who is doing the draw? The default is that PRA will do a random draw from respondents and send the results to you. You can also have them just send you a list of respondents for those random draws, and then you're responsible for doing the actual draw and letting that happen. So I'm going to have PRA send me the list of responses, and then I need to tell them what dates I want to have those draws on. So I'd like to have a draw to encourage early response. So I'm going to have an early bird draw, and then I'm going to add a date so that I get that second one. And then I'm going to have a later draw, probably on the 25th. So there you do that. And you just add, and you can add and remove from these to get the dates that you need for your draws. Then there's optional add-ins. You get 2 email reminders being sent to students as a part of the base package, but you can have more. You can add up to 2 more. Alberta institutions, the government's paid for more, so you don't have to worry about requesting more. It gets ridiculous after a little bit if you have 2 and the government's added 2 and you have 2 in the then you've got 6 suddenly. So be cautious about how many you add. But for the rest of you, it may be that you're running it long enough that 2 reminders is not enough, and maybe you need a third one at the end to give you that little boost in response rates at the end. I'm going to leave this set. Well, let's do 1 additional reminder. Then you have the option, if you're participating in this survey, of adding additional questions. These are custom questions for your institution only. If you're part of the Alberta collaboration, the additional questions the province has provided are already handled. These would be custom to you as an institution. They're $200 each, so you want to think reasonably carefully about your questions. You want to make sure you're asking individual questions, but you can say yes, we're going to add questions, and then we ask you to give the number of questions you're going to add. If you plan well, it could be 2. If you don't plan your question, it could actually turn into a lot. So we then ask that you send your additional questions to Linda at admin@CUSC-CCREU.ca at least 4 weeks before your survey administration starts. So it's filled in the date that I chose for the start date. We need the 4 weeks because these questions go to our additional questions committee, who review them along with the advice from PRA about what it would take to code those questions. And there's sometimes some back and forth between the institution and us to get those questions right, to make them fit, figure out where they go in the survey, all of those questions. So you do want to give yourself that 4 weeks time to settle all those questions. Collaboration report. Well, if you're in a collaboration, you're going to want this. The only collaboration that we know of going this year is Alberta Advanced Education. So Alberta institutions do choose that. Most of you will have none. You might be thinking about a collaboration with other institutions. So we'd have to get some information from you. You'd fill that in down here about who else is collaborating. Your other collaborators need to know they're collaborating. This can't just be wishful thinking on your part. So do pick the collaboration that you need. So I'm going to put Alberta in there just because I put in Alberta as the address for this institution. All right, so now you see our totals up to 3,700 because we have the additional reminders in there. And now we have other optional things. So you can get comparison reports that are available to you. If you want detail on that, you can click on the procedures manual. It will talk about the comparison reports. You can get them in English or French for 300, or English and French for 600. So that's the differences in many of these, is whether you're getting them in both languages or just one language. This allows you to pick institutions with whom you are compared if you are a member, and you can see that level of detail rather than doing it yourself. You can get institutional data tables with tests of significance. This is basically an Excel workbook that gives you your institutional data tables, but also adds tests of significance to them. So that could save you some time. If you add those, you can again get them either in English or French, or English and French, and the price is different at that point. You can also ask for an executive report about your institutional data. And this is really creating a summary, and this could be useful if you want to pass this up the chain in your institution to get your executive to read that. It's one way of getting CUSC data on the radar, maybe piquing some interest and getting some questions out of your executive on that report. There are some open-ended questions on the survey, and you can have PRA categorize those for you. If you just check that off, it's 65 cents for each respondent if they've completed an open-ended question. So we can't tell you in advance how much that's going to cost, because we need to know how many respondents have completed the open-ended questions to do the math. But you can have PRA do this for you. reports all come by FTP. You log into a site and download everything. If you want a bound paper copy of reports, you can choose to add those by checking off the boxes for the relevant reports. Learning management system. Now the title is a bit misleading, but what this means is you could, if you have the technology to do it in your learning management system, or through a student portal that you have where you can deliver a unique link for each student, you can receive the links under this category that you will post. In our case, we have a student portal where we post these so that students are reminded to complete the survey through their student portal as well as by email, and that helps improve your response rates a little bit. If you don't have the facility to do that, you can uncheck that and you won't get it, but it's quite useful. So here's the section where you can order reports in the language that you didn't select at the beginning. So if you selected English, then you're offered the opportunity to get reports also in French. And if you ordered them in French, then you're offered the opportunity to get them in English. We have an experiment this year. The hypothesis of the experiment is that inserting encouraging messages in the survey at points where students normally drop out of completing the survey will help improve survey completion rates. There's no cost to you. We do this experiment of some sort every year. Mostly they're aimed at improving completion rates. And so that's what it is this year. If you select opt out, none of your students will be included in that experiment. If you choose 10% of your sample, then 10% of your students will get this prompted response rate. So that allows you to do a bit of internal comparison just for your institution to see how that worked as well. Finally, there's a survey module you can choose to add or not. There's no cost to this, but we're asking students about generative AI, with their awareness of it, what the specific kinds of generative AI they're aware of, how they think that's impacting their area of study, and whether they're aware of any policies from either their institution or their instructor on that. And so you'll be able to participate in that for free. If you don't want to, you can turn that off, but that is available to you as well. Whew. So we are way at the end now. This is where you can have any additional comments that you might want to make. You can put them in there. That'll be submitted along with your registration. There's some notes on this page about GST and HST. This is charged based on where you are. So those will be added to the total that you've seen so far. Then withdrawal notes are on here. So you can withdraw if you registered and then you decide you can't do this. If you give us at least 2 weeks notice before your scheduled start date, you'll not be charged a survey participation fee. If you don't give us 2 weeks notice, there is a cancellation fee if the cancellation comes with less than 2 weeks notice, then that covers the cost for PRA to do their administration of this survey on our behalf. Once we get past there, you get to a review page. You can go down and review your responses for every section. You can go back and click on the button to edit each section. If you need reminders, some of the procedures manual links come through there as well. So you'll go through that, review everything. And there's all my answers. And now you can go backwards and edit things if you wish, or use these edit buttons. But you also are at this point ready to hit submit. And when you hit submit, some emails go out and it will say, thank you for registering. If you need to have follow-up questions, there's Linda's email address once again, and you'll be able to deal with things at that point. Phew. Okay, so we're all the way through all of that. So if you have questions, why don't you drop those into the chat? I'll leave my window shared so that we could go back and look at things if we need to. If the chat isn't enough, then I may ask you to unmute, and then we can have a verbal discussion to go with this as well. So I see some snarky comments about left and right politically. Interesting story about that is that it's the TV channels in the States that decided which party was red and which party was blue, and it was utterly arbitrary. So the question, this is about Alberta, but the government covers the standard reports in the collaboration agreement. But if you're adding comparison reports or an executive summary, those are yours to pay for as an institution. So the main fees are covered, not custom things that you add on. So Alberta colleges, this is for Alex, who's asked this in the chat about whether the base participation is at no cost, and that's true. Base participation is at no cost. So if you use the special link for colleges and technical institutes, it's a little clearer about which things are being charged to you and which things are covered by the province. We list them all anyway, but there are notes that say which things are specific to you. So are there other questions? All right, well, for the special sample, this is a question again from Alberta. You can go beyond the provincial government special sample definitions if you have groups within your institution that you want to be included in the survey as well. So you can do that. There's nothing that prevents you from doing that, but you may want to have a discussion with the province about identifying those so that they can exclude it from their analysis. Then the next question is about all Alberta institutions. So I'm noticing a trend in this. Alberta institutions, it's colleges and technical institutes are the ones that use the special Alberta registration. If you're not a college or technical institute, if you're a university or an independent academic institution, then you'll use the standard registration form. So you have the two choices. It's only if you're an Alberta college or technical institute that you use the special one. Sam's asking a follow-up about the special samples. The answer to this is really depends on how big those special samples are. The province, when we created the grant agreement with the province, it was based on an estimate of the number of students that institutions would have both in the standard sample and in the provincially defined special sample. But those are fairly generous definitions. So if it doesn't make you fall out of the range that the government, that we put you in crafting that grant agreement, you probably won't have to pay for it. And so far, nobody has had to pay for a special sample that moves them out of one category into another. So that's not a truly definitive answer, but that's as close as I can get at this point. All right, anyone else have questions? All right. We are just polishing off the last details of our registration forms. They are available both in French and English, so we need to get those parts settled. So registration will likely open next week. We will send you a note when it is actually open for you to go in and take care of things. And so do look for that email. We'll be sure that everybody in this webinar gets that. With that reminder, we'll also put a link to the recording of this webinar so that people who missed it can watch through that themselves. It's pretty straightforward. The question that's just been put in the chat is, when are they due? We normally ask that registrations be completed by early December, December 10 or 11, something in that range. We can take slightly later ones, but when you register after that, then the scheduling of your survey is subject to where the people who registered on time chose. So we can only launch so many at a time. And so your preferred dates may not be completely serviceable if you register really late. So the form will still be open probably all the way to the end of January. All right. So this is your last chance to put in a question in chat. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Do look for notice from us when the registration form opens. I appreciate all of your questions, and do feel free if you have further questions about the registration process. Admin at CUSC-CCREU.ca is the place to send those, and we'll happily address those for you. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we'll see all of you through the form of registration. Thank you.